Alright, good morning everybody. I'm Alan with Carter and Herb Blank, and what I'm going to go over are your pre-chlorine pumps, your post-chlorine pumps and your pre-chlorine pumps. All 8 of them are VertiFlex VF32 pumps. The post-chlorine, they're rated for 0.6 to 12 gallons per minute each. The pre are rated for 0.7 to 14 gallons per minute each. The basic principle of the pump, principal operation, is in the pump. If you can see, there's a rotor in here. And Scott, could you turn it on a little bit? And then you'll see an aluminum shoe come by. That's the shoe, and there's 2 of them in there, and they're 180 degrees apart. And this is your suction line on the bottom. And what's going to happen is one shoe's going to compress the hose, and as it compresses it, it's going to force the chlorine in through the discharge line. And then when the other shoe goes by, it's going to release. The bottom of the hose is going to fill up with chlorine, and as it goes by, it's just going to keep compressing and releasing and compressing and releasing, and it's going to force the liquid out into the system. On the discharge side of it, right here, we have a pressure switch. That's in case someone downstream or whatever closes the valve, or this valve gets closed. This is set to shut off at 80 psi. But before this will shut it off, we have a pressure relief valve here that's set at 50 psi. Because this is a positive displacement pump. Pretty much what goes in, it's going somewhere. So if we didn't have these items here and someone shut the valve, you're going to burst your pipe because it's going to force the liquid somewhere. So these are the 2 safety items on here to keep you from damaging any pipe. Also on the discharge, we have a pulsation dampener, which is going to keep the flow steady. It's going to keep it from pulsing, and it's just going to keep a steady flow in the system. Inside, Scott, can you grab that hose? Inside here, this is just a miniature version of what's in here, but this is the hose that's inside the pump. You guys want to pass it around and take a look at it, but this is a much larger hose in here. Also inside of here is a lube. It's a verter lube, and it lubricates the hose. As you can see, the blue on there, as it rotates, it picks up the liquid and the lube in the bottom and keeps the hose lubricated. Also on the unit, we have a float. After roughly around 2,000 hours, the hose is going to rupture. That's rated at full speed, full system pressure. We have a float in here. So when the hose ruptures, this unit's going to fill up with the chlorine. And this float will shut it off. It's going to fill up, the lube is below that, it's about 1/3 full. And the lube it's going to fill this up, and it's going to shut the unit down. And as soon as that happens, you need to turn it off and isolate it. You need to get this cover off and flush out the inside so the chlorine doesn't sit in there. Whether you can get the hose changed right away or not, you need to do that. You may have other stuff going on, but you need to do that as quickly as you can so that chlorine doesn't sit there and eat up the metal. Back here you have your gearbox, and excuse me, on the post, the gearbox is rated for 4 to 78 RPM output. That's the fastest this pump will run, is 78 RPM. On the pre, 4 to 91 RPM. The gear lube in here is a mobile, an EP220. It's good for 10,000 hours or 2 years. That's a breather, and also the fill port. The level gets filled up to this plug right here on the side, and the drain plug is on the bottom. All of the motors, all 8 of the motors are the same. They're all 2 horsepower, 1800 RPM, 230 volt, 460, but they're all connected for 460 volt. They all have Zerk fittings on the drive-in and opposite drive-in bearings, so they do need to be greased. Let's see, where's my little note here? It says about 12,000 hours in your O&M, but depending on, you guys may have a maintenance schedule where you want to grease them more often than that. But in the O&M, it does have a chart there. You can tell, it has your size bearings right here. It tells you how many ounces of grease to put in here. And it's an NLGI #2 grease. Also on the unit, let me walk around here. You have a calibration column on each of them, so you can manipulate these valves, fill the calibration column up, and run the pump and see how many gallons per minute you're actually pushing out. Then over here we have a forward and reverse switch. When we go to replace the hose, we'll come out and we'll do another training session on and actually change a hose for you. But you have a forward reverse switch here to make it easier to put the hose in and out, because you're not going to get it just perfect every time. So that's why we have the forward reverse switch. Then there's enable and disable, so you can be safe. It's one person can do it. It's a lot easier if you have two. That way someone can be over there at the drive. And that's pretty much all I have on the pumps, unless you have any questions. If not, we'll turn you over to Scott and let him go to the control panel. Okay?
This area right here is going to tell us
correct. Correct. It's gonna. I'll go out and I'll get the sample of the burner lube and show you, but it's gonna dilute it. It'll be mostly chlorine. It'll be mostly a chlorine repellent. But
should be nothing in there all the time.
Should be nothing in there all the time. That should be empty. And also after that fills up, you need to pull that off and rinse it out also.
Put that back.
Put that back. Yes. All right, Scott, where are you? And I'll go get let you see the burner.
That only allows flow.
Yes, sir. It goes right back to the suction. Yep.
850 pounds? 80?
Yeah, we set that at 80 and that at 50. Because we were told these pretty much are going into zero. They're open-ended, and that's going into
low pressure.
Open-ended.
It's all low pressure.
Okay, so no one gave us numbers. Did this is pump the radio, pump and push that.
All right, good morning. I'm Scott Epperson with Carter & Verplank. We're going to go over this morning the control panel for your pumps. As Alan said, basically you have your pre-pumps and your post-pumps. If you look toward the back there, the orientation that is pump number 1, 2, 3, 4 coming this way. This is 5, 6, 7, and 8. This panel here is real simple. You have basically a local offering switch. Typically you guys, I'm sure once the skate is turned on, you guys are going to basically run your remote, which is probably going to be some type of a flow signal, chlorine residual. But typically, when you're going off of SCADA, you're basically going to have your switch in the remote position, and that's going to get a start command from the SCADA. Okay? And then it's going to run off of a 420 signal that comes to each drive based on the demand for chlorine. Okay? And here you won't actually be able to see it when the panel's closed, but there's going to be a speed signal that's on the drive. Let's say, for instance, it's telling the drive to run 50%. You're going to be running at 30 hertz. Right now, these drives are set up to run 0 to 60, 60 hertz being the max. And at 50% speed, if you were to open this door, you would see 30 hertz on the drive. That's telling you that it's running 30 hertz and it's injecting into the system. Now, as it goes through the system, your residual, of course, is going to modify itself, and then it will adjust the speed automatically depending on whether the chlorine's high or low. You can run them locally. You can walk up here, basically, you can open the door up, you can turn it local. You have a speed pot on here that you can basically adjust it. If you guys, sometimes it's a new install, you guys might run them manually for a couple of months, possibly. So you can basically adjust it here as the demand calls for it. You can slow it down, you can slow it down. Basically, like I said, we're in local position. This pot will be set. Wherever that pot is set, that's the speed the pump's going to run. So right now it's running at 10 hertz on here. Let's say you guys were checking it, doing some tests, and you need to inject more chlorine. You just basically run up your speed pot. Now that's going to be a little test of progress until you guys get used to it. But I'm sure you guys are going to pretty much run it automatic once everything is on. But each thing has an elapsed time meter. This is going to basically give you the amount of hours that the pump is ran. This will run whether it's in local or remote. I know yesterday some of the mechanics had tried to come up with maybe a plan, for the hose rupture, to get on a maintenance schedule before the hose actually ruptures. You could actually use the elapsed time meter for that, but that's just their preference. You do have a run light that will be on basically any time it's running, and you also have a VFD fault light. Biggest thing on a VFD fault, since you guys are the operators, you're going to be seeing it. You're probably going to be the first contact on here. So if you do see a VFD fault, there will be a fault code on this display. It may say overload, it may say overcurrent, but there will be an F code on there. Before you guys reset it, you can reset it here with the red button. Word of advice, just write the fault code down. That way you know what it is. And if it keeps recurring, you can call tech support. Of course, you can call us. We can give phone support. But when you reset it, if the fault is no longer present, it will clear. If the fault's still there, it's not going to go anywhere. It's going to sit right there. But it's always good just to jot it down so you know. That way, if you keep seeing a problem over and over, there might be something that needs to be looked at. This right here, that's the fault clear, the big red button here. Anything else that we can do? There is one external fault on this drive. As Al was going over the hose fail, when that hose ruptures, that little chamber is going to fill in that float. Al, why don't you do me a favor? Can you go pull that fifth relay for me? If you look in that panel, there's some little relays on the top.
Okay.
Pull the fifth one from the left, please.
It's got a line on top. Go to the flash when there's a fault in here.
No, basically whenever there's a fault on here, this light's going to come on, it's going to be red. It'll be a hard red. Now, the only external fault on here, on that hose fault, that's the hose fault. Okay, that's basically saying this hose is ruptured. Now, you guys can come over here. That's the alarm sign. Okay.
Is that the right one?
Yes, sir. Now, if you see on here, we've made it fault on auxiliary fault. Okay? This means this will be the only fault that does not have a fault code because it's external from the VFD. Okay? When you see an auxiliary fault, that means your float is full of lube and chlorine, and you're going to have to change the hose.
Are all of these, like that fault and all the others you mentioned, are they tied into our SCADA system? You guys know that?
Yes.
They are tied.
Yep. All these, basically any fault on these VFDs will go back and you guys will get an alarm. Yep. And it goes through that panel because the leak valve goes through that panel first, and then basically we have to program it over here to trip in the manual position. We don't, in manual we want it to turn off. So that's why it goes through there first, because all the stuff goes through his panel before your SCADA picks it up.
Does a failure over here cut the generators off?
No. Pumps are completely separate from your hypochlorite. But basically on that, the auxiliary, everything else about the fault code. and that will be internal to the drive, which means this drive is picking up something, whether it be a power outage, an overcurrent, someone closes a valve, you could get an overturn on that because it's trying to overcome the pressure. But that's basically it. Now, and like I said, anytime the fault is gone, press your red button, it will clear and you can start. But as in the float assembly, once you change the hose, you've got to clean out that chassis and the float, or that float's going to stay up and it's going to stay off. It's going to prohibit you from running. Until that happens, you cannot run that pump. These breakers here, these are your 460 breakers. If you guys need to turn them off for any reason, they're basically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. You guys, circuit breakers here. This panel does have an air condition in there. It's set up for room temperature. Right now I've got the breaker off, so it doesn't kick on while we're doing the training, but that will run. You'll hear it periodically cycle. Occasionally you might see some water drippage on the floor. That's normal. That's pretty much it on the drives. Like I said, once we get through all the SCADA, I do know the pressure switch down here that Alan was talking about, the trips at 80, that does not come to this panel. It goes to SCADA. So we have yet to actually visit with them yet. So once we know how this actually works, we may have to incorporate that to the panel. But right now we don't have that coming in here. So we'll have to chat with them. But that's it on the panels. Any questions?
What happens to these drives under a power outage or whatever?
On a power outage, you're going to basically get an under voltage. I do have this set up basically on a regular fault. It will try to restart it twice. Okay. Now, if you guys want on a, say you have a storm, you lose power. If you want the drives to come on after a power outage, the only time that will happen is if the drive was physically running at the time of the outage. Now, if you guys want that, the drive can be programmed for that. Right now, it's not. If it has a fault on there, a power outage, it will stay off until you come back out here, turn the switch off, and back on. But that's certainly an option that you have if you guys want to do that.
What about fault? We're going to basically come out here and reset the fault after the power is restored, or
yeah, no. You'll have to come out here and hit this red button and restart it. Especially on here on the switch, if you guys are running manually or remote. If it's in remote, when you clear it, you'll be able to basically come out here. You can leave it in remote, and obviously when they lose the signal, the SCADA is going to turn off the run command, or at least most of them. I'm not sure how theirs is going to do it, but basically once it gets a non-run, once he's telling it to run, if it stops, he's going to turn off the auto and maybe switch to a different pump, and then of course it'll just cascade on the problem cycle. So they'll turn the run command off, so someone will have to come out here, turn it off, turn it back to remote, and then your SCADA will try and turn it back on once everything's clear.
All right, one thing I forgot. All right, well here's the lube that's inside your housing. That's food grade lube. So when you flush that, you can just dump it into your drain. The chlorine's less than, it's below the hazmat, so you can just hose it off, let it go into your floor drain, and that's food grade, biodegradable. You know, and that's, you know, and they call it burner lube. That is what's inside the pump housing. And, you know, you will get a copy of all the O&M manuals, and these are laid out pretty good. So, you know, familiar, you know, make sure you read them, go over them, and all the information's in there. But you all have my card. Any problems, give us a call. We'll help you on the phone. Again, if you come up, we'll come up. So, how much of that take? You need, where's that sheet? It should say how much, didn't it put it on there, how much for this pump? Or just put a third full? Okay, it's in the O&M manual, how much?
It's probably a quarter.
Yeah, you're gonna, a gallon, you can get a 5-gallon pail of it.
We'll probably need enough for that. Every time we change that, all that comes back.
You have to change it, yes. And when you put the hose in, you have to lube this up too. If you don't, and after you rinse that out and you try and run this in, it's gonna go in, it'll say about that far, and it's gonna stop. Because I did that. And I had to, it was a while to get it out. But you need to lube this up before you run it in.
And also on this, Alan showed there's some switch boxes here. This forward reverse here is basically only going to be used when you guys change the hose. You guys probably don't know much mechanics, but basically there is an enable and disable here. Let's say you're out there walking around and you see there's a valve closed or you see a leak somewhere and you want to turn this off. You can turn this to disable, it will shut the pump off. You don't have to walk to the panel and turn it off. Once you correct the problem, you can turn back to enable, and as long as the drive was running, whenever you turned it off, it'll restart at the same speed it was going, and you can walk away.
That won't cause a fault or anything like
Nope,
that?
will not cause a fault. We basically put this here for the changing of the hose. So like Al said, it's easier with 2 people, but you can at least stand here, you can jog the pump back and forth, and you really need to turn it off before you switch to reverse. That will cause an overcurrent on the drive. So we put it here so you guys can stay here, work on the hose, and not have to walk back and forth from the couch.
Just so everybody knows too, we're expecting 6,000 to 8,000 gallons, so about 400 usage a day. Stuff like that. So we come out and measure this, it's going to be
All right, well that's it. We're going to walk out here and go over the salt tank, and then we'll walk outside and do the blowers that are out here out in the back. This here is your salt tank. This basically holds all the salt that the chlorine generator is going to use while it's making bleach. You have basically salt here, and you have basically fresh water that comes into this tank that saturates the salt where it's usable for the generator. Now, this has a transmitter on it to 0 to 15 psi. This brings in a signal to this panel meter and converts it to feet. This panel meter has a relay output on it that controls your fill solenoid. This fill solenoid is normally closed, so unless it's physically filling, there's no action going on. This meter is set up to fill at 6 feet, and since the generator doesn't need much salt, it only fills a half a foot. At 6.5 feet, it turns off, and unless you're actually walking by here, you're not even going to hear it running. It's that, it might take 30 minutes to fill, and it's really quiet, and it's going to turn off. Now, right now, it's reading 9 feet. This is because when we were here last, before the salt truck moved the salt in, we had to put water in the tank to protect the PVC piping that's in the bottom of the tank. So what that does is when he blows the salt in, the volume raises the liquid level. So that's why it's at 9 feet, and it's been that way ever since it started on the generator. Now, this might be adjusted somewhat. Right now your brine tank is lower than your racks inside this other building, so that kind of offsets the inductor. Basically the generator runs on an inductor, and when the generator starts, it's using fresh water, and it pulls a very small amount of brine at the same time, giving you a certain saturation of salt, and that's what makes the generator run. Without salt, the generator will not run. Okay, so we will get with him and make sure that this elevation is correct for y'all's application, and we will adjust this if need be. But basically, that's the solenoid. It opens, it fills your tank, and normally once you guys get the generator online, that's the level that you're going to see 6 to 6.5 feet as a standard. There is an isolation valve on here. If you guys need to work on this, you can kill water pressure here. The only problem is there's not an isolation valve up here, so Because right now, if you did have this solenoid, if it goes bad, we all know at some point it's going to go bad. They put unions here, but unfortunately, there's no way to keep the water coming from out of the tank. So there is a drain here. You could drain it, but obviously you would have to put more water in it. So we're just going to, kind of ask them to put a valve there to isolate that, so it's easier to work on. But on the salt tank, it is recommended per the factory that this tank be cleaned out once a year. So typically what they do is they'll bring a vac truck in, and as we walk by, you might have noticed there's a manhole over there. They take the manhole off, vac truck sucks everything that's in the tank out, you pressure wash everything in there, and clean it out. Now some people don't do that, but it is recommended in the O&M to be cleaned out once a year, because the truck company will tell you that the salt's clean, it's pure, there's nothing in it, but
We've pulled boots out and socks out of salt out of brine tanks. So,
and it's also a good idea, since you guys are the operators, you'll see it the most. When the salt truck is here, he'll plug up, he does all the work, he plugs up to the salt field and everything over here. It's a good idea, while the salt guy's here, when he's done, get a little 5-gallon bucket for a sample. You want to make sure it's dry, it just falls out of your hand. If it's muddy, wet, that's a telltale sign that there's something in it that might contaminate it. And when it gets in the generator, the electrode, it just really calcifies up real fast, it packs the generator, and that's no good. So it doesn't take much effort there, but basically you just want to see it rock solid style, you just want to see it nice and dry. If the guy's banging on the truck and it takes him 6 hours to unload it, that's a problem. Real important.
The cleaning of the tanks, that's something you guys on?
No, if you guys have a back truck, like I said, just, they typically just suck everything out. It's usually about this level. And of course, a lot of times they try to schedule it, they suck it down as much as they can. You pop the manhole, you suck it out. Somebody gets in, just hoses off. If there's any, like Al said, sometimes it's not always just salt. So you get all that stuff out, pressure wash it,
and then before you put salt back in, you need to put water back in here, because running along here, see the white on the side of the tank? That's the 1-inch pipe going all the way around the tank that has holes drilled in it, and that's where the water, when it comes in, it disperses all the way around the tank. And then on the bottom is like a spider of pipes with slots cut in it, where it comes out and goes to the generator that keeps the salt from going in, and it just lets the water go through.
Is that cleaning procedure
What's that?
Is the cleaning procedure for the tank, is that it going in there?
Yes.
Can you just kind of go over basically the principal operation of this?
Oh, you don't need all the maintenance stuff?
Well, what's happening here? Is this thing going to control the level of the water on its own?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Okay, so how do we add water to it?
You don't need to.
You don't
It'll
need to.
automatic.
This right here is going to maintain 6 to 6.5 feet.
No matter what?
No matter what. This is basically independent of the generator equipment, the pumps. This has 110 volt going to it. So as long as you got power here, this is going to control it. Okay?
And it comes from the water, one of the water softeners in there, because you're putting softened water in here. And that's your 1-inch inlet line that's coming in here, putting the softened water in here.
Now sometimes, depending on where it's placed, out of sight, out of mind, you don't walk by it every day. Some people choose to put a manual bypass in, so they can walk by and just fill it themselves. Some people just don't like automation, but that's an option you could do. But basically, this will control.
This solution, when these generators are running every day, this salt solution is going to be dropping.
It's going to drop probably about a half a foot. This uses very little salt when the generator is running. It's going to use more water than salt. That's why the span for fill is only half a foot. We can put more water in here, but what's going to happen is if you raise the liquid level too high, let's say you raise it to 10 feet, let's say you have a manual bypass and you fill it up and you forget about it. And you come back and oops, let me turn it off at 11 feet. Well, let's say that day you were down to 20% salt in the tank. Well, when the salt guy comes and blows in the salt, it's going to raise the liquid level, and sometimes it'll overflow the tank. So there's really no need to have a lot of water in here. All you want to do is have enough water for the inductor on the generator, which Emmett will go over that stuff with you guys this afternoon. So there's no reason to fill it so high. So that's why we leave the span half a foot, because you'll barely see the water difference. You know, I mean, if you guys are running the generator 24/7, which typically that's not the case, you might see it drop, but this thing will maintain the fill.
So you're saying 6.5 feet?
Right. Somewhere in that range. Like I said, basically,
So the level is not going to, it's going to drop and then it's going to put water.
Correct.
Water, so.
Right.
The only thing you'll have to keep an eye on is your salt level. You'll have to keep an eye and make sure that when you get down to a certain,
How do you know where that is?
well, you can see the,
That's not the water and salt, that's just the salt.
Yeah, if you were to look at it, if you were to get up in the top and look at it, the salt usually kind of cones, okay? But, right, you know, obviously you can tell at the top is just as empty.
I didn't
When the salt's in there, you'll be able to tell. See, what they did was, they were probably only, obligated to put in 25% salt first load. So what you guys will have to do is, once you know how long the generator runs per day, you'll have to say, okay, I can get by on one full tank of salt, say 6 weeks, something like that.
this will hold
If you get an
114
idea of how long
ton.
you're going to run, you'll know when to call the trucking company, you'll know how long it takes for them to respond. Is it 2 days, 3 days? So, you know, this will hold a whole truckload. So, whenever that truck comes, you don't want the water level to be high.
And the truckloads are only 25 ton.
Yes.
This will hold 114 ton
Salt.
of salt.
Are you saying if we wanted to, we could put 2 truckloads in here?
Yes.
So we can have one come in tomorrow, we don't have to worry about it.
Right, you can have one coming tomorrow.
But, so no matter how much, if we double the salt, this thing will still keep the water level. where it's
Yeah,
at.
it doesn't work. This doesn't control the salt, it just controls the water level. The salt's a visual.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if the truck size is different. I don't know how much they carry at one time, so you might want to ask. As far as what they have.
But what is the level? So we're looking at the salt level just by this filtration here, right?
Yeah, the salt is somewhere below that level.
Okay, so what's the lowest we can allow it to get before you're in trouble?
Well, again, that depends on your usage and how long it takes for them to respond.
Well, I mean, I guess what I'm asking is if the
Well,
salt
you don't want it to get below that line over there, because that's the line going to.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
but-
over here, you're still okay.
Yeah, but you can't see the way this is right here. This is the brine output. So whenever the generator kicks on, the inductor sucks in. It's basically using your system pressure on the generator, and the inductor's pulling the salt. Okay, this pipe in here actually comes in the tank and actually drops to the bottom of the tank. So it can go pretty low. Now, obviously, you don't want to get too low. You could probably fill it with this down here and easily get a whole truckload in there. And some people might go 2 months. Some of them run 20. Some of them, some places they're undersized. They run 2 or 3 units 24/7, and the truck's there once a week. But that'll be something you guys will have to kind of play with once you get a feel for what you're doing and what your schedule is. It's easier to do that. Some people run more during the summer, less in the winter, so it just kind of depends. But this meter is programmable. You can't walk up to it. You can change it if you want to come on 8 foot instead of 6. Like I said, I'll check with him before I leave. If he feels it needs to be higher, I'll adjust it. Right now, I do have I do have a lock on here. Sometimes people get happy fingers. They want to walk over here and push buttons, and next thing you know, it doesn't work. So then you're going to call me, and then So right now it is locked. So you can't hurt it right now. But some people don't like the lock on there. So if anytime y'all want to change it, you can certainly call me, and I can walk you through how to adjust it. But this will be, this is freestanding. It doesn't matter. You could have the generators off. This will still run, maintain. It's not like this is going to turn off and that's all of a sudden going to open and just put water in your tank and overflow the tank. But you can certainly put a manual bypass on there just for, sometimes, of course, this is electric. It may go bad eventually. You may need to put a bypass in to fill it manually, or use a hose. However, it just pretty much depends on your guys' preference.
So if that died, burned up, we'd have a problem. We'd have to have something.
Yeah, you'd have to have something to bypass it, correct. Yep. Yep. I mean, these meters are readily available, so I mean, like I said, this may only, you could have this down, and depending on what you're running, the liquid that's in there, that might be okay for 2 weeks. Only you guys will know that once you see how long you actually run. But you'll see when it runs, this barely drops. It barely drops. It uses very little salt. But it's the most important factor of the whole thing. Without salt, you have nothing in there but fish.
But water.
Yeah, you can put some fish in there, So,
I say when we tell them to add the isolation valve, we tell them to add a bypass at the same time.
What is this? Just a drain?
Yes, sir.
Drain, a salt tank?
That's a drain. That's all good, but then you got to put water back in it, and it takes quite a while to fill it back up. So that's why we like to see a valve there. That way, if you guys do have to work on the solenoid, because we all know at one point it will, you can just close that. Everything's fine. You don't get dirty changing it, and everybody's happy.
How often do you think that will come on?
Well, again, that's based on your usage, but if the generator runs all day, it might come on once, twice.
I believe it's 1.2 gallons per minute of brine when the generator's running. That's what you're using. So, but what the volume is in here, I couldn't tell you.
So when the generators are running, that's putting water in there too?
No, when the generator's running, it's taking brine out of here, brine water out of here. And then when that, like Scott was saying, when that hits 6 feet, that solenoid will energize and fill it back up to 6.5 feet.
So it's obviously going to drop more. Let's say if you guys are running both generators all day, then yeah, it'll cycle some, but it probably only takes 15, 20 minutes to fill. So unless you're actually back here, you won't even hear it fill. But that's pretty much it on the salt tank. We will.
If you want to walk around here, I'll just show you the pipes coming in from the blowers, and then we'll go out and do the blowers.
Why do we have blowers on the salt?
You don't have blower on the salt.
No blower on the salt.
They're just on the vent stack and the chlorine tanks.
That's just an overflow then?
That there is.
I am not sure.
That's the.
No, that big pipe.
One up there.
I'm not sure what that
That
is.
should be your dust.
That's the dust bag.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you have a pipe going outside that's coming out there, and sometimes when the truck driver's blowing salt in, that big silver pipe that he hooked up to when he was here filling, he blows salt in. Sometimes you have a dust bag. If it's that dusty, like I said, the salt should be dry. Sometimes this is actually everything's in a room, but of course you guys got a pretty good setup that's going outside, so you probably wouldn't need to use a dust bag. But if it's inside, they put a dust bag in there to keep the dust from flying, and everything gets white inside. So they just put that there just to minimize it.
Maybe I'm a little confused on this whole salt thing. This level here is going to drop. That salt's always going to drop. Water level's going to come on and rise up, and the salt, ground mark is not going to change.
Yeah, the 6 foot level, it's going to be probably somewhere around right here. Once it turns on the generators and starts sucking it down, it's going to be about right here. And that's where it's going to maintain.
So no matter how much water you add to the salt, it's just going to...
Yeah, the only way this liquid is going to really astronomically go up is, like I said, if you had a bypass on here and you filled it and it went, 3/4 up the tank and you turn the valve, if you have no salt here, that's when the liquid level rises because it's filling up that volume inside the water. So other than that, the liquid level is going to stay here. You guys are going to blow salt in, the salt's going to go up, and you'll just see salt up there. You won't see that dark green everywhere. The salt, once it's in there, it's kind of hard to tell now because there's not a lot of salt in here. The actual color differential, it'll be like a white because it'll be dry. And you'll be able to tell what the salt level is.
Okay. So the dark line now is not the salt level.
Right now, this is both. It's water and the salt level. Like I said, I'm guessing you got a quarter load. So the salt's probably down here somewhere.
We got 25 tons, so it's a quarter of this tank.
Yeah, pretty much.
So you're saying it's probably down right here.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm confused. How do we know when we're running out of salt?
Well, all right, the first load, we gotta use up all this brine water in here, you know, and get it down to its normal levels. Then you blow in another load of salt, then you'll be able to differentiate between the salt and the water. So basically, we need to use up and get this down to its normal operating level, then go ahead and bring in another load of salt, then you'll see it better. Because right now, because in order to protect all the internals of the brine tank, we had to put water in here. We had to just put nothing but water in here, because normally, under normal conditions, after you're up and running, you'll always have salt in here. Normal conditions, your salt will always be above your water level. You always have more salt than water. But right now, since we had to fill it with water, that's why our water level's so high. So once we use this up and get down to the normal operating level, everything will, then you'll see it. And then when they put another light in here, you'll be able to see it better.
And like I said, the salt's light. So once it is full, there's going to be a different color to the tank. It's kind of hard to imagine right now because it's empty.
When you have water and you put salt into it, this place is about 2/3 volume. So if you got 3 feet of water in here and you dump salt in it, you'll have 9 feet. And that's basically what happens, because you have to have water as a buffer so you don't break the bottom of the piping and stuff. So you put water in it, then you put the salt in, and that 3 feet of water goes up to 9. So normally we would get it, you put salt in before you got below your water level. That way you wouldn't have drastic increases in your liquid level.
So we need to get another load in here, really.
Yeah, then
I'll get another load.
Yeah, once you guys actually put it on mine, you'll have to get some more.
you'll feel more comfortable then. You'll see it.
I'll get one in here.
And then it's kind of thing where you want to figure out what size truck you have, how much, it's going to run down, and when you get down to a certain level, say, okay, now we can take a truckload, order if it comes in a couple days, build it up, and that way use the full truckload, because you pay for the truckload, even if you only use half the stuff.
Hey, Dan, you need me?
Nah, I got to stay for those people related to PPDs.
Oh.
All right, well, that's all the questions. We'll just follow Al there around the corner there, and he'll show you where else to go.
Really no good way to get in here.
I just turned the switch on, so they're warming up. All right. That pipe right there, that large white diameter pipe, that's your vent stack. And what that is for is your chlorine that is going into the vent stack. Okay? But the two larger gray pipes up top, there's 6 blowers outside. There's 2 large ones. Those are going into the vent stack. The off gas when you're making sodium hypochlorite is hydrogen. That's going to blow air into there, and that's going to force the hydrogen out. You're going to release about 90% of your hydrogen gas from the vent stack. Okay? But some of the hydrogen is going to be trapped in the solution. It's going to the tank. In the tank, you have 2 blowers for each tank. And you have an exit on top of the vent on top of the tank. So that way you have a duty blower and a standby blower for each scenario, for the vent stack and for each tank. So you're going to be forcing air into the tanks also when you're producing sodium hypochlorite, which, because the hydrogen's lighter, it's going to rise to the top. But this is just to make sure you don't trap any hydrogen gases in any of the tanks, and you don't want to trap it in the vent stack either. Because the sodium hypochlorite is going to go in the vent stack and it's going to fall down. The sodium hypochlorite is going to fall down the vent stack and come in and fill your tanks at the bottom.
So the smaller pipe is the sodium hypochlorite from the generators in the stack.
Yes. Yes. The 2 larger ones are the duty and bypass, or duty and backup blower for the vent stack. And those are the 2 larger blowers that are outside.
It's blowing it in.
It's blowing it in.
Go out the other one.
It's going to go out.
Well, it goes out the top.
It just goes out the top. It goes out the top. Or does it go out the top?
It goes out the top and it goes outside.
Out on top of the roof.
Vented outside.
It goes up and out.
Yeah, you see how there's 2 pipes up there? One is the blower in, the other pipe is the vent out.
Lower in and then out. That makes sense. What about leaves?
That's an overflow. Good energy level transmitters. Just picks up off the bottom of the tank. There's one on each stand.
What if one of the, you got 2 blowers on each tank, right? What if one of the blowers dies?
You have a backup.
It'll still run.
It'll still run.
The other one goes out,
You're down.
whole thing.
Yes.
That one tank would be down.
One tank.
Right. Emmett will go over that whenever you get it on the training on the generator, but basically it's set up automatically. It's a duty standby. Each one of these tanks is this thing right here behind Alan on the wall, which Emmett will go over. That's an EPS switch. It sends the air pressure coming out of the vent pipe. Okay? And that's telling the computer, hey, blowers are running, get good ventilation, keep the generator. If for some reason you lose some pressure on here, it will try to start the standby. Okay? And if it still doesn't see the pressure, then it'll turn on. You get it on. And it'll tell you whether it's EPS 1, tank 1, or tank 2.
There's another one on that, over there for that tank.
Right, there's one on that tank. So basically what it will try and do is just keep running like normal and give you an alarm on that switch or that blower. Okay? Now, right now, you choose, you'll walk up to the screen and it will show you. You walk up to it, you're going to tell it, I want, let's say you got a leak on this tank. You want this tank to be leaking. Let's say this was tank 1. You'll walk up to it and say, I want tank 1 to be lead, which means it's going by this level. Okay? You'll have to go in there and you'll tell it, I want tank 2 to be lead, and then you can run the generator based on tank 2 and their blowers. So you won't be totally down, but like you said, you would be down on that.
So these tanks, what the operation of these tanks is just, it's going to use them. Going to use them.
And you can cross connect. You can just fill in one tank, enter the fluid into the sodium hypochlorite in one tank, and it'll fill the other tank. You just manipulate these valves however you want to do it. If you want to just fill and use out of one tank, or fill it, you can use them together or independently, however you want to do it with your valve.
Blowers. When we're not generating, there's not supposed to be blowers on, is that correct?
They don't have to be wet.
No, they won't be on.
It won't be on in automatic. Now, we'll go over the panels in a minute, but there's a manual on there. Some people like to, run them all the time. But in automatic mode, no, they will be on.
So there's no danger of hydrogen at all.
Correct.
We're not generating.
Basically, what happens is,
stored high mode. It's safe.
yeah,
Correct.
whenever the generator is running, you guys will be able to gauge your amount of usage. And you'll control when you fill it. Say your tank gets down to 80% or it gets down to 70, and then you'll gauge that. You'll tell it, I want to start at 80 and off at 90. Well, in between that normal stop and start, when you hit the stop point, the blowers will ventilate for about 15 minutes to purge everything out of the system, and then shut down. So your blowers will always run a little bit after.
Yeah, I
Once
was
that's
asking,
done-
about 5 minutes after the generator shuts down, the blower will continue to run for about 5 minutes, just to make sure you purge all the hydrogen out.
And everything will basically sit down possibly for a couple of days. Depends on how much bleach you guys are pumping. So
I was just curious, it's on this past weekend, October shut them off in a lot of, I didn't know. And it didn't know why they were running, so I don't know if it was gonna be standard operation, or they would just be on.
What, they were running over the weekend?
Off. Yeah, you just get an auto outside. That's the line.
Okay.
all right.
We'll go out with the blowers, look at the blowers real quick. Over here, oh, where's the cameraman at? Oh, there he is. Over here are your two bin stack blowers. And as you see, they go into a common header, and then the top, which was the top pipe, that's where the hydrogen is going to come out, is up top. And these blowers, the two blowers here, they're 1950 CFM at 46 RPM. That's these two blowers here. You got silencers on them, on both of them. And we went over the maintenance with all the maintenance guys, so do we need to go over that? As far as greasing the bearings and all that?
Been in that.
You need to go over the maintenance on this?
I don't remember going over it before.
Okay. Were you here yesterday afternoon?
No, I wasn't.
Okay. All right. Well, on each of the blowers, there's two steady bearings in here. They've already been checked. The set screws have already been tightened on them, and the fan wheel, the set screws have been checked and tightened on them. But after you run it for 8 hours, you need to pop this top, recheck the set screws, and recheck the set screws on the fan. And that's under each cover here are the pillar block bearings.
How do you check the fan there? How do you access the fan?
Well, unfortunately,
Take the whole thing off?
yeah, you take the whole thing off. Yeah, and you just need to retorque the set screws on the pillar block bearings. Then you re-grease these every 2 to 4 months on the pillar block bearing, and how you grease them. You can either rotate it by hand or whatever your guys' safety protocol is. Me myself, I'll run it and grease it,
Yeah.
and then you just till you ooze out grease out of each end of the bearing on these. And then down here you have a 5 horsepower motor, which those are re-greasable also, and it's all your grease. It's an NLGI #2 grease, but all that's in your O&M manual. It says in the O&M 9,500 hours, but that's clean, perfect atmosphere.
Yeah.
So you're probably going to want to do these about every 6 months on these motors. On the smaller ones, those are 3rd horsepower motors in there. And these motors, they have, there's no Zerk fittings on them. Those are as sealed for life bearings, as they call them. The only way to re-grease those is to take the motor apart and repack the end belts. Yeah. And I've never seen anybody do that on a 3rd horsepower motor, because they're pretty much throwaways this day and age. And also there's pillar block bearings in each of these also. And those are rated at 250 CFM at 2160 RPM. But each of the motors are 1800 RPM output. And there's shivs in here that, you know, increase the speed of the fan. So that's where you're getting your, you know, 1800 out in and 2160 out on the fans. And these do have filters on them that need to be checked and cleaned, you know, periodically. And then these are your isolation valves. And there's one on each blower, on each discharge. And like I said, and then this goes to tank, is this tank 1? And tank 2? Alright, these 2 blowers go to tank 1, and those 2 blowers go to tank 2, and then there's a vent at top for each one.
Right, and you remember when we were inside, we were showing you the 2 pipes coming in. You've got the one going in, that's the vent pipe coming out up there that was next to it. So basically, air's going in, then it's coming right back out.
Just keep positive pressure on the tank to keep the hydrogen out. Which the hydrogen is lighter, and it's going to try and go out anyway, but this is just to, you know, speed up the process.
Why would we have to isolate that? What are we isolating here?
This is just, you know, you need to work on it. You're working on that.
On that one,
Right, that one, yeah. You know, that's just your isolation valve. So, yeah, if this one's down for repair, you're going to want to shut that so your air's just not coming out and blowing right out here.
Yeah, and anytime you're working on the blower, please just kill power on here. That way, you know, because most of the time this will be an automatic. You just turn the power off, and
You can turn that individual blower off, right?
Yes, right there. You'll go over that with it.
yeah.
Any questions on the blowers? Anything?
Well, I mentioned the drip, like,
Oh, the condensate pipe here? Yeah, you're going to get condensation in there, so, you know, you need to
Open it, drain it.
yeah, just put the clear tube on there so you can see it and just open it and drain it out.
Yeah, it was actually full yesterday. We drained it yesterday.
Really?
For that, who knows what that's actually from?
These are your control panels. Basically, they're common sense set up here. This panel here is for your vent stack blowers over here. Far left and over there, of course, is number 1 and number 2. Now, as we said earlier inside, based on the system, these blowers are designed to take out 90% of the hydrogen. So basically, they are bigger, as you can see. Most of the time, they're going to be an auto. The generator is going to control when they start. They will always come on before the generator actually comes on. And then, like I said, inside, basically when the stop point is hit, they will continue to run for a periodic of time to purge the tanks. So if you guys do want to run them manually, you can. But since these are loud, these are bigger, that's what you'll hear when they're running. These will always kick on first before the system starts. These over here, they're smaller, they're not quite as loud. But basically, when the generator is running, you'll always have one vent stack running, one tank blower. Now, if you're filling both tanks, you'll have one on each tank running. And as Emma will go over later, basically, you know, they're set up duty standby. There'll always be one only, and they will alternate if need be. Now, if for some chance the generator's tripping on a DPS switch, first thing I would do before you look at anything on the generator, I'd come out here and make sure that your blowers aren't tripped. These are designed, they have overload in them. You come out here, you see an overload light, you can reset it. Try that, but basically I would check this first before you start looking at anything on the generator itself. A lot of times the problem would be out here. But most of the time these are going to be an automatic. You won't have to do anything with them, but like I said, if you guys happen to be working on the blower, just turn power off right here, it's off, everything will be safe. And you do have a run light on here. The generator does get a run status light, the contact going back in here, telling it, hey, the blower's running. So as soon as it sees this running, it's going to be looking for pressure from the DPS switch that's in there. If it doesn't have both, it's going to give you a problem. It'll give you an alarm. But Emma will go over that later. But that's pretty much it. You can run these manually if you want, but it's really not necessary. In automatic, they're going to purge, and leaving them in automatics are perfectly fine. So, but that's it on the blowers.
So do they rotate on their own? You know, duty
Yes,
standby?
they will rotate automatically. Basically, after it hits the stop point, let's say if you guys are filling it at 80, off at 90%, when it goes to that normal cycle, it's going to automatically alternate. So,
Scott,
yes, sir.
start both of those, put both of those in manual in the center one. If it said we got a light out.
Yeah, on the right hand side.
Okay, okay. All right, we need to get a light bulb.
Any concerns with freezing weather, the condensation, piping out here?
Well, you get enough freezing where it clogs up your vents. Up in the northern latitudes, especially like in Alaska, they've had to put heat tape on the outside of the vent because the condensation coming out to freeze before it got out of the pipe or freezes into the pipe. Pretty soon they have a big chunk of ice there blocking the airflow. I don't know if you're going to get that cold here.
So if our condensation got above these two pipes here, it would block the airflow, is that correct?
Yes.
Well, if it gets up there, it'll actually drain back into your fan, which isn't good for it.
Would we see that out here? We would see it?
Pardon?
Would we see that out here?
Yeah, it'd probably be dripping out of your filter. And then once the filter gets wet, it's harder to, suck air through it.
All right, that it, guys? Any more questions?